Hello and welcome. You're watching India Global. I'm Vedant Agarwal. Well, a big lead on the show this week. Nawaz Sharif has claimed victory, though without a majority. Pakistan now headed for a coalition government most likely, but Nawaz Sharif's dramatic return to Pakistan as a Prime Minister seems imminent. And well, those are visuals coming in of Nawaz Sharif addressing a huge crowd there. We'll get all perspectives on the show, but first up, the headlines this week. Nawaz Sharif's victory lap, but without a majority. Pakistan heads for a coalition government led by Nawaz. That is a question right now. Allegations of rigging fly thick and fast. A big question. A military oversight behind Nawaz Sharif's return. That's a big lead. But Pakistan polls marred by violent attacks. Pakistan Interior Minister claims a peaceful poll. Meanwhile, Pakistan Minister says only 4 lives lost in poll violence. US, though, condemns the twin blasts and the internet suspension. UN Secretary General too expresses concern. In the US, a big victory for Trump in Nevada. Trump wins Nevada's Republican caucuses. Trump's third primary victory ahead of polls. Biden too bags the Nevada primary. After India announces the fencing of the Indo-Myanmar border, free movement between the Indo-Myanmar border is scrapped. Leave immediately, says India to citizens in Rakhine. Well, India keeps a close eye on the security situation. Unfortunate news from the UK. King Charles diagnosed with cancer. Queen Camilla says the king is doing extremely well. Prince William, meanwhile, steps up to lend a hand. The estranged prince visits the king in his time of trouble. And with a big lead on India Global this week, Nawaz Sharif has declared victory, even though he has admitted that he didn't have a majority. Pakistan now seems to be headed for a coalition government, with Nawaz Sharif poised to be the next Prime Minister. Some interesting trends also coming in. Hafiz Saeed's son suffered a humiliating defeat. Bilawal Bhutto, meanwhile, has won. But what seemed to be the biggest surprise of the Pakistan elections was that even though Imran Khan was in jail and his party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, was barred from contesting elections, the independents, backed by the PTI, have performed increasingly well. The unofficial leads favoured the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf backed independents. So some sort of a victory there for Imran Khan in jail, even though Nawaz Sharif is set to return as a Prime Minister with a coalition government. Many sort of controversies also that the Pakistan polls saw, from poll violence to rigging charges as well. In fact, the US also expressed concerns. Let's take a deep dive into what actually happened and what are the ramifications of the Pakistan elections. Joining me on India Global this week, Andrew Whitehead, a British journalist, somebody who's a very close Pakistan watcher and the subcontinent watcher indeed. Also, Dr. Saeed Elahi, a former Member of Parliament, is also with us. He's a senior leader of PMLN, which is Nawaz Sharif's party. Also, Maid Ali, veteran journalist and a political analyst from Pakistan. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining us on India Global this week. Going across to you first, Mr. Whitehead, how do you see the poll outcome? Was it on expected lines?
Well, it does seem as if many of the world's biggest democracies are in a bit of a loop tape. You see that in the United States as well. So if Nawaz Sharif comes back as Prime Minister, good for him. But it's clear that Imran Khan and his independent candidates have done much better than anybody was expecting. And of course, there are quite loud and insistent suggestions of irregularities in the voting and more particularly in the counting and the announcing. I don't know how much strength those suggestions hold, but clearly it's deeply worrying, and the delay in announcing the results and the initial counting is also worrying. So I think it does raise question marks about how rigorous the democratic process is in Pakistan.
Absolutely, and Dr. Saeed Elahi is also with us. Dr. Elahi, we saw Nawaz Sharif make that victory speech there. Madam Nawaz also standing next to him. Mr. Shehbaz Sharif also there. But were you confident that Nawaz Sharif is now set to make a dramatic comeback as Prime Minister, even though Pakistan seems to be headed for a coalition government now?
As I can assess and evaluate, the results are not very much different from the last two elections, because there are 4 provinces in KP, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The PTI is leading and they will form the government, because as they have done in the past. Punjab will remain with PMLN, which is Nawaz Sharif party. Sindh with People's Party, Mr. Bhutto's family. And Balochistan is always a coalition government. So this will happen again this time. The question about becoming Prime Minister regarding Mr. Nawaz Sharif is very important, because if PMLN is having majority seats in National Assembly, obviously the new coalition will be as it was in PDM government for 16 months by end of Mr. Imran Khan's government after the no confidence move. So I think the future government in Pakistan will be again a coalition, and all parties from all over the country will join hands. And I think the majority of independents from Punjab and KP will join different parties of their own choice, because they will see which party is forming government and becoming powerful. For example, in Punjab, PMLN is leading, so most of the independents will join them. In Sindh, People's Party, and in KP, this is still to be decided, because the independents are, most of them are from PTI, which was not a party allowed as a party to contest elections.
So that point about independence, that's very interesting, because now how the coalition government is formed, that largely hinges upon the independents. Mahend Ali, what do you take away from the surprising results of the PTI-backed independents? I mean, they performed exceedingly well in more than 40 seats.
I will say that it is very heartening to see that a party that was in the establishment tried to sort of crush came out with all difficulties, because Pakistan, majority of people are not that literate, as compared to any other country. So they had to remember symbols. Even that minute point was very vital for any party or candidate to win the election. That is the difference between winning and losing. But still, the people managed to remember the symbols of their respective candidates in their respective constituencies, and they came and they voted out and numbered, and it was overwhelming. I saw it myself, I was there. I voted also. So it was overwhelming. And the results have been very positive as far as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is concerned, because they were trying to eliminate PTI from all across, which they couldn't, because they knew the repercussions, the backlash from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa could have been massive, which couldn't have been sort of countered, because the anger among the Pashtun population is relatively more than the rest of the country.
But Mr. Whitehead, whenever we talk about Pakistan and democracy in Pakistan, we have to talk about the military establishment as well. Do you think it's military oversight and the military that actually scripted Nawaz Sharif's return as Prime Minister, whether it was his dramatic comeback and then subsequently Imran Khan's jail as well?
Well, all the way through, almost from the beginning, the military has put its hand on the scales, so to speak. It's just about impossible to win an election in Pakistan unless you have at least the goodwill of the army and of intelligence. And that is regardless of how much popular support you have. I suppose it's at least encouraging that the military is not ruling themselves and that they are going through a democratic process Pakistan, as you know, has had long periods of military rule with generals ruling the country. And at least if the generals are back in their barracks, that's an improvement. But there is something clearly deeply flawed about how Pakistan's democracy works. And the reason for that mainly, not exclusively, but mainly is the way that the army and military intelligence insists on ensuring that its preferred candidate wins.
And that was actually very visible in these elections as well. Dr. Elahi, as a senior leader of the PMLN, how would you respond to the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's charge that these elections have been rigged?
My dear, rigging charges are part of elections. In Pakistan or in surrounding all countries where there are elections, the one who wins says fine, the one who loses blames of rigging. So I think the charges of rigging are not correct, but small little riggings are part of every constituency. It happens. It is not that it is always transparent and clean, because sometimes there are pressures, sometimes there are rigging, sometimes there is corruption. So many things together can add some rigging into different elections.
All right, gentlemen, stay on with us, but let's take a look at how, the developments panned out in Pakistan today. Of course, it was a dramatic prelude to the Pakistan elections. There was some poll day violence as well. But take a look at this report to understand how these elections panned out and what are the ramifications.
मैं एक दफा नहीं कई दफा कह चुका हूँ I love you too.
Former Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's big return to politics. Maryam Nawaz has also won from Lahore.
खुशी की बात होती कि हमें पूरा मैंडेट मिलता और हम अक्सरियत पार्टी बनते और गवर्नमेंट बनाते. अगर ऐसा भी होता तो हम बाकी अपनी इत्तेहादी पार्टियों को भी दावत देते कि आप भी हुकूमत में हमारे साथ शामिल हो जाएं और आप हमारे साथ चलें. लेकिन चूंकि आज हमारे पास इतनी मेजॉरिटी नहीं है कि हम अपने तौर के ऊपर हुकूमत बना सकें, इसलिए हम अपना उन इत्तेहादी पार्टियों के साथ जो कि इस इलेक्शन के अंदर कामयाब हुई हैं, हम जरूर उनको दावत देंगे कि वो भी हमारे साथ शराकत करें.
Independent candidates who are mostly backed by Imran Khan's PTI party are ahead in the race to the top, according to latest trends. Cutting across to Pakistan People's Party, Bilawal Bhutto too registered a win with his party straddling at number 3 for most of the day. Mumbai terror attack mastermind Hafiz Saeed's son suffered an embarrassing loss. But it hasn't been all hunky-dory. The counting began last night and the initial trends leaned towards PTI-backed independence. Soon after, the counting seemed to slow down, prompting allegations of rigging. Several unverified videos to this effect are also doing the rounds on social media.
7 घंटे की मुशक्कत के बाद मुझे आरओ के दफ्तर जाने दिया गया और सुबह के टाइम पे मैं आप लोगों से वीडियो शेयर कर चुकी हूँ. मुझे जबरदस्ती पुलिस ने ड्रैग करके जबरदस्ती मुझे वहाँ से बाहर निकाला और मेरे जो चीफ पोलिंग एजेंट है उसको भी बाहर निकाला और रिजल्ट वो अनाउंस नहीं कर रहे. मैं हारी नहीं हूँ और ना ही मैं हारी हुई लीडर हूँ. डेरा गाजी खान जीत चुका है, मैं इन्हें 185 जीत चुकी हूँ.
Sporadic violence spilled over from polling day to counting day too. But Pakistan's caretaker interior minister described the elections as the most peaceful and well conducted in recent history.
We have had the most peaceful and most organized election of recent history in Pakistan, and we are proud to hold this election in that manner.
Pakistani media is reporting that Nawaz Sharif's party is in touch with the independent candidates who seem to have sprung a surprise by breezing past Nawaz's PMLN party. Sharif and his party reportedly have the Pakistan Army's backing. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV.
So fascinating there how the independents have sprung a surprise. But the question we are really asking, is it military oversight that has scripted Nawaz Sharif's return? Mr. Vital, let me go across to you again. Even though Nawaz Sharif is now poised to take over as a prime minister, do you see this as an end to the political instability and, of course, consequently the economic turmoil in Pakistan as well anytime soon?
I mean, it would be nice to be optimistic, but there aren't very much grounds for optimism. And there is certainly a democratic temper there. You can see by the scale of the turnout. And indeed, whatever you think about Imran Khan, he has been hugely effective, even though behind bars and with the army and the authorities trying to make every step along the way difficult, denying him election symbols, not allowing his party to stand. He has done exceptionally well in mobilizing his support, and his support seems to be hugely considerable, put it like that. But stability, I don't see it. I'm afraid I don't see it. If Nawaz Sharif does emerge as prime minister, there will be inevitably questions about whether the electoral process was free and fair. It does look as if Imran Khan supporters will have sufficient numbers in the National Assembly to be quite a considerable counterweight. So we don't know the outcome yet, but I'm not deeply hopeful of stability on the political and, because of that, on the economic front either in Pakistan.
So that's an important point then. Dr. Elahi, as a politician yourself, do you feel that the military is still calling the shots as far as Pakistan is concerned, and this really, perhaps as many would call it, was a sham election?
I think it is not only military. The problem is that in Pakistan is a security state, you know very well. So in Pakistan, the establishment has a very strong role. It is not only army, civil bureaucracy, other departments. They are strong in Pakistan, and obviously they can influence. But this time, as I know, and I have been roaming around, there was no interference or pressure from army or civil bureaucracy. They were quite independent. Even I met some of the deputy commissioners and commissioners in different areas. They were very free and fair.
All right. But I think perhaps the biggest takeaway is how the PTI-backed independents have really performed, and that's a big hope for democracy in Pakistan. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us on this very crucial day for India's immediate neighbor. And well, our big story, as there's another chapter in Pakistan's turbulent politics, let's take a look at how Pakistan has taken many shots at democracy and how it has been a spectacular failure. 30 prime ministers and not even a single one has completed a full term. And also, how have these prime ministers and presidents in Pakistan dealt with India? Because, of course, we are looking at the impact of these polls and its outcome on India as well. Here's a report.
3 constitutions, 3 military coups and 30 prime ministers, all overthrown before their 5-year term. Pakistan's failed tryst with democracy, a story over 70 years in the making. Enter General Zia-ul-Haq, who unleashed the most repressive military regime Pakistan has ever seen. Zia-ul-Haq changed the course of Pakistani politics forever. He changed Pakistan's parliamentary democracy to a semi-presidential system, making it easy for the military to exercise power over politics. Now on, the military would not have to execute a coup to seize power. It was under Zia-ul-Haq's oppressive regime that Pakistan saw massive resistance from the people, who came out in defiance, protesting against the dictatorial rule, demanding their democratic rights for the first time. Zia died in a plane crash, paving the way for Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's daughter Benazir's dramatic entry into politics. But military oversight ensured her political rival Nawaz Sharif's election as Prime Minister for the first time. Under Nawaz Sharif, India-Pakistan became closer than ever before, with Vajpayee's visit to Lahore. His historic bus ride to Lahore sparked hopes for Indo-Pak peace amid the impending Kashmir issues. But Sharif's glory days soon faded. The military helped Benazir overthrow him, and with this, ties with India also plummeted. General Pervez Musharraf thwarted the oversight system, overthrew the democratic rule, and waged the Third War against India in 1999. With India's capture of Tiger Hill, Pakistan was defeated in the battlefield again, and Musharraf's quest was a spectacular military failure. The decade following the Kargil War saw Musharraf, now President of Pakistan, as the dominant political figure, with Benazir and Nawaz in exile.
I go back to show to the people of Pakistan that their sister is ready to mobilize the moderate middle and to fight to reclaim Quaid-e-Azam's Pakistan, for which my father and so many others gave their lives.
In a turning point for Pakistan, Benazir was assassinated in Larkana, her hometown, upon her return. President Musharraf was accused of murdering her, and all hopes for a possible return of democracy. He stepped down as president, and Benazir's husband took over. Terrorism in Pakistan was at its peak in the 2000s, and India bore the brunt, with Islamabad becoming a breeding ground for terrorists and extremists. These elections also marked the entry of the military's favourite and former cricketer Imran Khan, outperformed by his arch nemesis Nawaz Sharif. But as Imran rose to power as the army's Ladla, the military kept pulling the strings, and Pakistan's doublespeak on terrorism continued. But post-2014, India's foreign policy saw a dramatic shift, with Pakistan completely isolated by New Delhi.
जब तक पाकिस्तान में ये सोच है कि आतंकवाद के दबाव से भारत को हम नेगोशिएटिंग टेबल पे ला सकते हैं, इसको हम कभी हमारे लिए ये कभी मंजूर नहीं होगा.
India's surgical strikes against Pakistan terror camps in 2016 was a watershed moment in New Delhi's dealings with terror in the subcontinent. This in retaliation to the September Uri attack, which killed 20 Indian soldiers. In 2019, the abrogation of Article 370 triggered Pakistan to downgrade diplomatic ties, seize all trade with India, and suspend cross-border transport services. The Imran Khan government even termed India's move illegal and unilateral. In a prelude to polls in Pakistan, cross-border terrorism resurfaced, with the Rajouri-Poonch trail becoming a hotbed of terror. As Pakistan goes to the polls amid a changing geopolitical environment, the stage is set for Nawaz Sharif to make a dramatic comeback with the Kaptan out of the game. Nawaz Sharif has vowed a message for peace for India in his manifesto. But with the military calling the shots for decades, one thing that India has learned is not to trust its volatile neighbour. And the jury is still out on whether 2024 will see a thaw in India-Pakistan ties. With Vedant Agarwal, Bureau Report, NDTV.
And moving now to the other big elections this year, well, in the US polls, Donald Trump has moved a step closer to becoming his party's White House bearer in what looks like a rematch with Joe Biden. He's certainly the frontrunner in the Republicans' nomination race, and in a big shot in the arm, he won the Republican caucuses in Nevada and the US Virgin Islands. What are really its ramifications? Here's a report.
Sort of knew who was going to win. You get 98%. We wanted to get over 80, and we got 98. And also, if you remember, and last night, you know what happened last night, right? None of the above. So I'd like to congratulate none of the above.
A triumphant Donald Trump after he won the Nevada Republican caucus by a whopping 98%. Trump has now won contests in 3 states, Nevada, Iowa and New Hampshire. This shot in the arm comes as he awaits the verdict in perhaps the most crucial case, his appeal against a Colorado Supreme Court ruling. The point in question is whether he is eligible to run again for president because he violated a provision in the 14th Amendment preventing those who engaged in insurrection from holding office. This comes after a US court ruled that the billionaire is not immune to prosecution. The US appeals court said that Trump does not have presidential immunity and can be prosecuted on charges of plotting to overturn the 2020 election. This is a big blow to Donald Trump, who has been saying for years that presidential immunity protects him from multiple cases. He is expected to file an appeal in the case after the Trump campaign said that future presidents could be immediately indicted after they leave office. On the other hand, the US presidential election race is heating up. While President Joe Biden won the Nevada Democratic primary, Republican nomination contender Nikki Haley suffered an embarrassing defeat in the GOP primary of the same state. Though legal wars may feel like a pebble in Trump's shoe, it is almost certain it will be a showdown between him and Biden come November. With Vishal Vivek, Anasya Mathur for NDTV.
So well, it's going to be a hectic election year. Lots happening on the geopolitical and diplomatic front as well. And you know where to come for all the updates every Friday, India Global on NDTV. For now, goodbye.